it's not on here, can't ask it, okay? Then, if I were to remove this to clarify it a little bit, wrapping around, okay, the pons at the superior pole of it, number 42 here, this is your cranial nerve number 4, trochlear nerve. So it's being pulled around, pulleyed around. Make it up as I go. That's how I remembered it. This big old thing at the side, okay, number 43, this is the trigeminal nerve, okay? Trigeminal nerve is huge, okay, and we had that doing one thing only. We oversimplified it down to saying muscles of mastication, trigeminal nerve, cranial nerve number 5. It also does sensation to the face as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay? Pretty important nerve, very large, but muscles of mastication is great. Okay? Then we'll go back central, okay, to number 44. Number 44 is cranial nerve number 6. That's the abducens nerve. Already talked about it. Lateral rectus abducts the eye. Move laterally along the inferior border of the pons. We have number 45. So this is cranial nerve number 7. Okay? Cranial nerve number 7. Muscles of facial expression. Pretty important. It's the facial nerve. It also does something else really cool, and it does anterior 2/3 of the tongue taste. So that's the facial nerve. Then we move our way down, okay? So cranial nerve number 8, vestibulocochlear, combination of, where did the year go, of the vestibular nerve and the cochlear nerve. They join together, enter here, okay? Vestibulocochlear nerve, cranial nerve number 8. Cranial nerve number 9, inferior to that, glossopharyngeal. Does the posterior 1/3 of the tongue taste. It also does skeletal muscle of the pharynx, but it is primarily the thing that we wanted you to remember was we want to finish off the special senses, and that's 1/3 of the tongue, posterior 1/3 of the tongue taste. 10, so I've told you this before, this kind of gets a little bit mixed up because the textbook doesn't show it quite as, or this doesn't show it quite as well as the textbook, and people tend to get confused. So 10, 11, and 12, don't stress on those ones, okay? So we'll end up at 9. So that's the nervous system. Okay? Feeling good? Feeling the flow? All right, cardiovascular system. We had the heart, and I'll just go through one heart. I'm not going to go through all of them. It's up to you to be ready. If there's a different heart on there, which there will be, the human heart is going to be out. Okay, that's fine. It's still just a heart. Okay? It's still positioned basically the same. All right? So we have our most anterior structure coming off the base of the heart. That's your pulmonary trunk. Okay? Big, huge thing at the front. So I know that's the front of the heart. That makes this, because the apex is pointing down into the left, that makes this the left ventricle. That makes this the right ventricle. This the left atria, and this the right. You're doing good, okay? No problems. So pulmonary trunk, okay, leads to this guy here would be the, because this is the anterior part, it's going this way, left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery, okay, coming up from behind, okay, kind of sneaking through there. Then I go one major vessel back, I have the aorta and the aortic arch. Aorta, first thing coming off the aorta on the right-hand side of the arch, brachiocephalic trunk. Splits into 2, that's the common carotid on the right, and that's the subclavian on the right. Okay. I continue on along the arch. The next thing, common carotid on the left. Next thing after that, subclavian on the left. Okay. So I have a series of vessels there and up in here. Okay. So big stuff there. Other things on the back of the heart. So I have coming down and in, okay, to the right side of the heart, so like this, follow the arrow, goes into the right atria, superior vena cava. Up and in, inferior vena cava. All right, so there on the right, and there on the right, goes in there. Anastomosing on the left side of the heart, okay, so I have these 4 red things, okay, arrows pointing in. Those are your right and left pulmonary veins. So they're red because they're oxygenated, but remember, it's coming back from the lungs. It's gone to the lungs in these blue arteries because they're carrying deoxygenated blood out of the right side of the heart, and they're carrying oxygenated blood back to the left side. Okay, so we're doing good. we open this thing up. So we've had our 4 chambers, our major vessels, and then we have the concern on the interior aspect. Again, if it's open, left side of the heart, significantly thicker than the right, okay, at the ventricle level. So why? Because this has to pump out against systemic circulation, okay? So left and right. Don't let that, use that as your landmark, okay? You can figure it out. Valves, we got 4 of them. So I have the valve here, okay, and the valve here. So I'm on the right-hand side of the heart. I'm always trying to be right. That's the tricuspid valve. The other one is mitral or bicuspid, okay? The cords hanging off of these things, okay, those are cords. They look really stringy. On the human heart, they look just little stringy things. They're not very well represented here, but that's okay. Those come off of the valves, okay, and they attach to little bumps in the wall of the ventricle. These are papillary muscles. So I have these cords that attach to papillary muscles, and muscles are attached to other things via tendons. These are chorda tendineae. So chorda tendineae, papillary muscles, and if you're worried that, do you mean this or do you mean this, just ask me and I'll tell you, okay? Oh no, I mean the flap, okay? No, I mean the string-like things. No, I mean the actual little papillary muscle, or the little bump, okay? So that's, what's the reason for those? Prevents infolding or backflow of blood into the atria during ventricular contraction. Then we have our semilunar valves. We have the pulmonary and the aortic semilunar valves. They have no special attachments, okay? So they're pretty easy, all right? So pulmonary attaches or is going to the pulmonary trunk, okay? And again, if you're like, oh, what's that? And then you have this heart in front of you, you can put it together. You can go, okay, that's the pulmonary trunk, that's the aorta. So that makes the pulmonary semilunar valve. Great, okay? So regardless of which heart it is, those are some big structures that you really need to know, okay? So that's good. Then we did blood vessels. So large pulse points was kind of what we were thinking, okay? Not demanding out of you know everything, just know everything. We could do that, that's not so cool. So what we had here was just follow through the major pulse points. We'll do here, and then we'll have some stuff here, and then we have the urinary, and then we have, you can be asked on the torso as well. Same big arteries, okay? So we start from the top. So we have the superficial temporal, okay, and the facial artery, both of which come off of the external carotid, okay? The external carotid is the external split off of the common carotid. So we can't see the internal carotid very well.